Hello, everyone. This is Inside the Americas. Coming up, the presidential election in Brazil is less than 2 weeks away. On the way, a closer look at the importance the evangelical vote could have this time around. Then, in the U.S., a group of migrants who were flown to the chic East Coast island of Martha's Vineyard sue the governor of Florida for sending them there. And you'll meet Mexico's digital nomads, those high-earning expats from North America and Europe who are disrupting the local economy in the capital. I'm Jeannie Godula. The UN General Assembly got underway this week in New York. This was the first fully in-person summit that's back now after 2 years of the pandemic. Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro was the first global leader to address the assembly, but his speech bore little resemblance to his past ones. The first round of Brazil's presidential election is now less than 2 weeks away, and the Brazilian leader seemed more focused on describing his economic and political achievements to convince more voters back home. This race could be a tight one for Bolsonaro as he is facing a challenge from former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Much of the focus this time around is on the evangelical Christian vote in Brazil. The group makes up about 30% of the population, and 4 years ago, most of them voted for Bolsonaro. But today, their loyalties are wavering. Our team in Brazil reports.
Nós, povo de Deus, entendemos liberdade, liberdade, liberdade.
Here is the man who will free them. President Jair Bolsonaro, who is running for re-election, has come to celebrate the birthday of Pastor Silas Malafaia, a loyal friend. The president reminds the thousands of worshippers, all devoted supporters, that he has been chosen by God.
Abençoa, meu Deus. Abençoa, meu Deus. O presidente da República.
Muito obrigado, meu bom Deus, por essa difícil missão que me deste pelas mãos de muitos senhores em ser o chefe do Executivo Federal. A vitória é de todos nós, porque o Brasil é a terra do Senhor.
4 years ago, more than 70% of evangelical Christians in Brazil declared their support for Jair Bolsonaro. To keep them close during this new electoral campaign, he is on a crusade against an evil that supposedly threatens the country.
Brazil was ransacked by the Lula government. It's these corrupt guys who want to return to power. So what is this struggle? It can only be of good against evil.
But the president no longer has the monopoly of the evangelical vote. In a working-class suburb in Rio, in front of a crowd of worshippers, former President Lula is blessed by a group of progressive pastors. The audience is predominantly black and female, a constituency that Lula is trying to woo.
Lá de cima, ele dizer, Lula, cuida desse povo. Este povo não quer discurso, este povo quer comida, este povo não quer discurso, este povo quer emprego.
A fervent Lula supporter, Monica Francisco is a pastor and a candidate for the Socialist Party in the local legislative elections.
These black women from the urban areas are the most affected by Jair Bolsonaro's policies. Hunger, unemployment, growing poverty. This is all the result of Bolsonaro's politics. Lula has a wide avenue ahead of him to win over these women.
To put all odds on his side, Lula has picked Geraldo Alckmin, a Catholic from the moderate right, as his running mate, an alliance which could help him win over some of the more conservative voters amongst these devout Brazilians.
The midterm elections in the U.S. are also coming up in November, and one of the hot-button issues there is immigration. This week, a group of Venezuelan migrants decided to sue Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for sending them to the upscale Massachusetts island of Martha's Vineyard. More migrants were also shipped out to the East Coast from Texas, another red state, as well. Leo McGuinn explains.
2 buses full of migrants stop just meters away from Kamala Harris's house in Washington, D.C. On board, about 50 people, including many young children. Most of them are of Venezuelan origin, but came straight from Texas, sent by Republican State Governor Greg Abbott. According to those helping them, Not many, if any, of the migrants will end up staying in Washington, D.C.
We're moving them right now to a safe location where we can give them food, a space to rest, a clean change of clothes, and we'll start working with them and making arrangements for their future travel. We expect the majority of them to move, especially to New York City.
Hundreds of migrants have been sent from Texas, Arizona and Florida to cities in the Northeast, Democratic strongholds. It has become a political weapon for Republicans who accuse the Biden administration of turning the border with Mexico into a sieve. They refuse, they say, to carry the burden of border immigration alone.
Our message to them is we are not a sanctuary state, and it's better to be able to go to a sanctuary jurisdiction. And yes, we will help facilitate that transport for you to be able to go to greener pastures.
Ron DeSantis is now the subject of a lawsuit. He is accused of having tricked migrants by sending them by plane to an island in Massachusetts.
They told us that when we arrived, we would have a roof over our heads, a job, food, and even a credit card with money. But it was all lies.
These cases have had a national impact. The White House have denounced what they call a cruel and premeditated political stunt. And some elected Democrats have called on the Justice Department to open an investigation. With the midterm elections just weeks away, Republicans have made immigration a key campaign issue.
We'll take a look now at some of the horrific destruction from Hurricane Fiona. The storm-packed winds of up to 130 miles or 210 kilometers per hour as it blasted through the Caribbean. At least 5 people have died so far, and there was major flooding and mass blackouts on islands like Puerto Rico, leaving it once more in darkness 5 years after Hurricane Maria inflicted more damage there than any other disaster in recent history. Another natural disaster, this time in Mexico, brings us to our number of the week, 1909. On September 19th, a powerful earthquake struck the western part of the country, leaving at least 2 dead. Now, Mexicans are well-versed in earthquake preparedness, living in one of the most seismically active areas in the world. But many were shaken this week for a different reason. Monday's quake fell on the anniversary of not one, but 2 other massively destructive and deadly earthquakes in Mexico in 1985 and 2017. Brian Quinn explains.
In Mexico City, first responders rehearsed their earthquake preparedness with a frighteningly realistic drill. Moments later, their skills called into practice as genuine tremors begin shaking the capital.
Oh my God, look at the other buildings. They're all swaying.
This is insane.
Western Mexico was hit by a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake Monday, damaging buildings and knocking out power. In the Pacific port city of Manzanillo, 1 person was killed when the roof of a department store collapsed. Across the affected area, residents literally shaken, but not only by the movement of the earth. Monday's earthquake is the 3rd major seismic event to fall on September 19th in recent memory.
What a huge coincidence. I don't know what this is about, really.
It's something unheard of, you could say, because it's not the first time. It's already the 3rd. It's a strange tradition.
In 2017, some 350 people died in a 7.1 magnitude quake that struck the center of the country. In 1985, thousands were killed in yet another massive temblor. Mexico City's mayor on Monday insisting that the date is just a coincidence.
We all wonder why this keeps happening, but there's no scientific reason that September 19th would have any special significance.
The capital's seismic alarms gave some 2 minutes of warning before the quake hit. Many residents, though, hesitated to heed them as they had already been sounded earlier in the day for commemorative drills. Mexico is one of the world's most seismically active countries.
We'll stay in Mexico for our last story now with a look at the so-called digital nomads. There are now 250,000 of them living in the capital, Mexico City, many of them from North America or Europe. But these workers with high earning potential are disrupting the local economy. Mexico correspondent Quentin Duval reports.
2 years ago, Andrew moved from his New York flat to Mexico City. The online course creator pays just half the rent for a flat that's 3 times as big.
I feel like it's been given me a great opportunity to live a little bit more of a relaxed life, not have to worry so much about money all the time. Living in New York was very expensive. I think that's just been able to allow me to do more things, to go out and explore the city, take different classes.
To integrate himself, Andrew moved to Doctores, a working-class neighborhood in the city.
I try to integrate myself as much into the culture as I can and, explore areas outside of those places. I try to get off the beaten path for expats.
Margara was born in Mexico City. She also moved to a new place 6 months ago, but against her will. After years of legal battles with her landlord, she was forced to leave her flat.
I lived in my flat for 14 years. When I moved in, I paid my rent in pesos. And then a few years later, my landlord made the decision to charge me in dollars, because there were all these foreigners who found it attractive to live in Mexico. We residents of this city are forced to leave places that have belonged to us for years.
In Mexico City, wealthy neighborhoods such as Condesa or Roma are popular with these new residents. Mayela Delgadillo has lived in Roma for 20 years. She sees more and more luxury buildings being built that remain empty. They are intended for temporary rental, especially for digital nomads.
Most of these buildings are built by investment funds or large companies with shareholders. The only thing that matters is to guarantee profits. They're built to satisfy the market, not to guarantee housing for local residents. Yet there's a real lack of housing.
The right to inclusive and social housing is enshrined in Mexico City's constitution. Mayela and other residents are pressuring the local government to respect this right through the implementation of a new urban plan.
Thanks for watching. See you next time for a new Inside the Americas.